today. I am Darlene Hamilton, and we are the Historical Tea and Dance Society. Every year, January is Jane Austen month in Pasadena, as we have two large events, a tea dance that we run at the first weekend, and a ball that the Society for Merriment and Banners runs the last weekend, and we have dance classes in between. And then on the day after the ball, we go to the beautiful Huntington Library, Museums and Gardens in costume. And it's an entire month of celebrations. This event was scheduled in honor of that occasion. We are so thrilled to have the Picadillys with us today. And I'm going to quickly introduce our team. First up, Lindsay Verbal. She is assisting with our concert, handling media and other things, questions and such. So Lindsay, would you like to take a moment to say hi and let people know how things are going to work today?
Absolutely. Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good day. So good to see you all here. What's cool about this, usually we do a webinar format, which means we can only see panelists. But today, as I'm sure you've noticed, we're doing a meeting format. So we can all show off our Regency finery. We can all show off our visual applause. So it's so wonderful to see your faces. You are very much invited to turn on your camera and to be present with us in this place. We are going to be taking questions throughout. So if you have any questions that pop into your mind, this goes for folks on Facebook too. Go ahead and type your questions into the chat box. We'll be monitoring and taking your questions down and calling folks up to ask those questions as we have time. And then if you're on Zoom, you're also welcome to go to the participants panel or the reactions panel, depending on what version of Zoom you have, and raise your hand in between performances of songs if you would like to ask a question. And again, we'd be happy to call on you. Something we're doing a little different is we are not allowing folks to unmute themselves at this time because we want to make sure everyone has the best quality sound for the audio. But that being said, we would love for you to ask your questions audibly in those times in between songs. So just keep an eye on your chat box. I'll be messaging folks to let them know that we're planning on bringing them up for a question. And then let's see, what else do we have? You also have full control over whether you see the gallery view with your other audience members or whether you just like to see the speaker view with whomever is presenting at the time. To change that on Zoom, go up to your top right of your screen on a desktop, and you can just click that view button and switch between gallery view or speaker view. And then on mobile, you just swipe back and forth. I'm sure everyone knows this already. We're all Zoom pros at this point. So that's it. If you have any other technical questions, you're having any issues, feel free to type a message in the chat box and we'll be keeping an eye on that. Happy to help you out as you need help. So that's all. Welcome, welcome everyone.
Thank you, Lindsay. And let me just say thank you also to Reed Wilson, who is posting in the chat box on Zoom and scanning for those questions, and Dan Vilter, who is posting on Facebook Live and scanning for those questions. So we're following you both. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Bruce Teeter of the Picadillys. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for this fabulous concert.
Thank you, Darlene. It's a pleasure to be here. Welcome everyone from around the world to our program of popular and dance music and the instruments of the Austen and Regency eras. Our band is called the Picadillys. I'm Bruce Teeter. I'm an early music specialist. I direct many ensembles from all periods of music, medieval, Renaissance, Baroque, this one Regency, and also later Victorian. You can see they're going to be posting links to my various websites here. Mariska Hopcroft, who'll be playing piano and harpsichord, has performance degrees from UCLA in historic keyboard performance, including on harpsichord, forte piano, and organ. And she also has a PhD in musicology. Our third member for today is Adam Gilberti, playing Shalomó and harp. And he curates the UCLA School of Music Instrument Collection. And he has a PhD in music composition. So our ensemble plays on original instruments or copies of originals. We'll be playing on original Broadwood forte piano from 1813, an original Chalumeau early clarinet from 1809, and a copy of voice flute recorder and other recorders, and a harp. I'll talk about the piano a little later. It's a fascinating instrument, but for this opening work, we're featuring the harp and the recorder, so I'll briefly describe those before we start. I just have a little PowerPoint here of showing images of the recorder and harp, if you can bring that up. So these shows the 4 recorders I'll be playing, the smallest sopranino, soprano, alto, and the one that is historically relevant is the larger one. It's a voice flute, which is a recorder in D, a copy of that instrument by an original by Bresson, who was a maker in London. The voice flute in D is in the key of D to mimic the transverse flute, which is also in the key of D, so that you could play music originally written for flute. On the next slide, I show the harp, and the harp was undergoing some technological developments in 1800, particularly the addition of pedals to the harp. And the pedals are a very complicated mechanical system that allows you to change the pitch of the string. So you can add sharps and flats to the pitch of the string, so you can change the key of the harp. And this was happening around 1800, and it's called a double action pedal, and it was patented by the French maker Erard in 1810. So that ends that description of the 2 of the instruments. So now we'll move on to this first piece by Haydn. Haydn had several residencies in London in the 1790s. And he actually lived across the street from the Broadwood Piano Factory. An interesting thing you might notice in the written spelling of his name, the English misspelled his name, adding an E to the end. So that's why there's 2 different spellings. And we'll play now music from his Viennese court ball. We'll play a minuet and trio. So that was the Minuet and Trio by Joseph Haydn. Thank you. Much of the music from this era played in salons for everyone's self-entertainment was popular music tunes, and sometimes very simple pieces that weren't hard to play, but were entertaining and reminiscing of old tunes, things like that. So here we'll play next a popular English air called Country Gardens. That was
Country Gardens. Bruce, your video seems to have shut off. Let's see if we can figure out how to get this working again. Thanks for your patience, everyone. The fun challenges of working with Zoom. Thanks again for your patience.
Well, I'm going to jump in for a minute and thank you all again for joining us as we get things back on track. The definitely challenges, but we are happy to see people from around the world. It's an amazing thing that we can do. Let me remind you that the musicians have donated their time to this concert effort, and we are posting a donation link that you may give them a tip for their wonderful music and to help support what they do and continue. Any luck, Lindsay? Nope. Give us just one more moment. We were talking about where folks are from when they came in, and I am going to fill in with a little talking. I see we have people from all across the country and Netherlands and England. Thank you for joining us. We imagine you are all Jane Austen fans, and I am wondering, and Ukraine, oh my goodness, wow, what an amazing thing Zoom is. Uh, and the internet, and sometimes it does things to us that we wish it didn't do. Let's see, what else should we talk about? This would be a cool in person. Yes, I agree. I agree. We actually did have the Picadillys play for us one year at our Jane Austen Spring Assembly. And they also perform at the Labyrinth Masquerade Ball in this lovely rendezvous court at the Biltmore Hotel downtown Los Angeles. In wow, Serbia. Thank you all for being patient as we try to work out the whatever has happened in the background. But yes, the Picadillys do play. I think they also have a concert possibly coming up in the San Diego area, but it may be a private performance. Okay. Let me, Lindsay, any word?
Currently, it looks like we are waiting for him to rejoin the meeting. So I think we may have some internet connectivity issues on his side.
Yes. And it looks like they have friends in the house as well. Give me 30 seconds and we'll be back.
In the meantime, if you've seen the Picadillys play live, we'd love to hear about your experience listening to them.
No cats. I think that we are going to show the next piece. And hopefully by the end of that, we will have Bruce back with us.
Excellent. The next piece is The Duke of Kent's Waltz, which is a favorite for many of us dancers. Enjoy.
That is a wonderful piece that we have all enjoyed dancing to so much, I am sure. We might have Bruce in the house now. I'm not sure, but we're still working on it. So let Lindsay make a comment about donations, and I will be right back as I make sure he's in. Oh, there he is. Yay, he's in.
Wonderful. Yes, and we will be posting a link for where to contribute donations if you like. Of course, this concert is provided free of charge, but we love the opportunity to support our musicians who currently aren't able to play for us at dances right now. So any way that we can bless them is, of course, very appreciated.
And I see him working on joining in the waiting room. So
wonderful.
Let's hope he will be back with us. I think we might possibly have him with us. Yes.
I am back. I'm so sorry. What a terrible glitch that never has happened before. Anyway, what have we covered while in my absence?
We went on to the Duke of Kent's waltz.
And we watched it yet?
We have, yes.
Okay. A little backstory on the Duke of Kent. It's a title that in 1799 was given to King George III's son, Prince Edward Augustus. And that's these two pieces, the Duke of Kent's Waltz and the next one called the Duke of Kent's New March, obviously were both dedicated to that Duke of Kent. So are we ready for the Mozart? I will just mention a couple things. Mozart's music, of course, is both innovative and accessible with some quite catchy tunes. This catchy tune from The Marriage of Figaro was also published as a contradance. And the music was handwritten into one of the Austen music books under the title The Duke of Kent's New March. And we'll listen to that now. That was the Duke of Kent's New March, as titled in Jane Austen music book. I'd like to explain the chalumeau that we've heard a couple times now. If we can take a quick look at the chalumeau PowerPoint showing some images of that instrument. So the chalumeau was originally developed around 1700 and as a simple woodwind instrument with a single reed, like a clarinet, and it was predecessor of that instrument. It was written for compositions by Vivaldi, Handel, Telemann, and Mozart. In the 1790s to 1820s, some keys were added to the instrument. The instrument Adam plays is a 5-key instrument built by Astor and Company around 1809 in London, specifically in Westminster. It's a boxwood instrument with brass keys and ivory mounts. And as I mentioned, with the addition of more key work in later times, it was called the clarinet. The next slide shows some close-ups of the instrument and its marks. So on the left, it says Astor and Company, London. And the middle shows some of the key work and the beautiful ivory mounts. And in the last one, a stamp that says built in London, and it looks like a little unicorn stamp just below that. Thank you. That's all for that PowerPoint. We'll move on to another extremely popular tune of this era. Rule Britannia was an instant hit from Thomas Arne's opera in 1745. Rule Britannia, as you'll see, it's rule, comma, Britannia, exclamation point. Those original punctuation marks as an exhortation to rule when the British Empire was rapidly expanding. However, in the later Victorian era, they often omitted both the comma and the exclamation mark, changing the interpretation of that lyric at a time when the British did already rule the waves and no longer needed to be exhorted to rule them. The popularity of this tune was attested by musical quotations by some of the great composers, Handel, Beethoven, Strauss, and even several times by Arthur Sullivan in his Gilbert and Sullivan operas. So now we'll listen to Rule Britannia. I hope everybody was able to sing along on that. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Next we'll
Bruce,
talk about, yeah, sure.
before we move on, I'd love to bring up a few questions that have come up over the course of the show thus far.
Oh, sure.
All right, so for a moment, I'm going to detour back to the Duke of Kent. Janice on Facebook was wondering, was that Duke the father of Queen Victoria?
I'll have to take a, I'll call my expert on that one.
All right, phone a friend.
Yeah, phone a friend. I won't answer that because I know there are people from England here who know their lineage of the kings and queens much better than I do. So the answer is I don't know.
I'm seeing some very assertive yeses in the comments right
Okay.
now. So there we
Yeah.
are.
I
It's
knew
on
there
you.
would be experts in the audience.
Of course. Okay, and then I also had one or two questions about the chalumeau. The one that you were showing earlier, what size chalumeau is that?
That is principally in the key of C,
Mhm.
if that helps. Unlike the modern clarinet, which is in the key of B flat.
Mm.
So it's a little bit lower.
Interesting. And then speaking on the subject of keys, what key is the piano tuned to?
If they're referring to the pitch, we're playing everything at A415, which is 1/2 step lower than modern orchestral pitch of A440. So we chose that because the chalumeau is at the pitch of A415. And it turns out that the piano, well, we had the choice of two pianos, but the A415 piano that Curtis has is the 1813 Broadwood.
That's pretty amazing. So that piano is an original then, not a copy.
The piano is an original, and we're gonna, as soon as we finish these questions, we'll actually go into that.
Sounds wonderful. All right, I think that's as good a stopping point as any.
Okay, then let's talk about that piano. If you bring up the PowerPoint for the piano.
Coming right up.
So this is the Broadwood Grand Pianoforte from 1813. It was restored by Curtis Barak, and I want to give many thanks to him for allowing us to use this. This shows the front end, the beautiful rosewood veneer case and nice carvings on the legs and the pedal work at the bottom. And if we go to the next slide, shows the nameplate, which says John Broadwood and Sons, maker to His Majesty and the Princess. And his address is Great Pallone Street, London, Golden Square. And the next, this shows the date handwritten on the pin block. It says AD 1813. This also shows the state of the pin block after over 200 years with its cracks. And this has led to some of the problems of this instrument in the stability of the intonation of tuning all the strings. So you might hear some of that if you have a careful ear for tuning. The next shows the full side view. This is an 8-foot grand, which is remarkably large for this period. And you can see if you look at the left side of the piano that it's higher and warped than the right side. So this is due to the tension of all those strings pulling on the instrument from the inside. At this period, the pianos did not have any metal framework to stabilize the case. So it's an entirely wood instrument. And they were using stronger and stronger strings. And this is what happens after a couple hundred years of all that string tension. It actually pulls the case into like a little boat. This is also why the intonation is a little bit unstable. And this is very interesting in the creation of the sound of this piano by Broadwood. These are the little dampers that dampen the strings after you release the key. And it's just those little tips of the felt that are actually going to be touching the strings those the very light little dampers. And what they do is to allow the instrument to produce a very silvery tone with a sustained resonance. This is very characteristic of Broadwood pianos, and they really cultivated that sound, and they were known for that sound. And many composers really liked that, including Beethoven, who had a Broadwood piano. And I think that's it for the description of the piano. Oh, no, great. So there was mention of Broadwood pianos in Jane Austen, Sense and Sensibility. And I thought I would just go through this little interesting background. So in the story, Marianne Dashwood played a Broadwood piano. And the Broadwood piano, which was a very costly gift, mysteriously appears at the home of Jane Fairfax with no visible donor. And it was described in the book as a very elegant looking instrument, not a grand, but a large sized square pianoforte, which is another style of pianoforte. It was an expensive gift. And if this gift was given by a young man to a woman who is not his wife, it was a most compromising one. So while pianos usually functioned in novels and paintings as emblems of social harmony, here Austen has subverted the normal rule and used the piano to sow domestic discord. Poor Jane Fairfax, secretly engaged to Frank Churchill, suffers severe embarrassment at the receipt of this very expensive piano. And this was written by Dr. Catherine Shanks-Laban of Vassar College. Okay, so this next piece will feature a piano, the solo on the piano. This is the composition by Jane Mary Guest, who was a very popular composer in London. She was a virtuoso pianist and a child prodigy since her birth in 1762. She was a pupil of Johann Christian Bach, and she composed in the galant style that was popular then, especially in this very legato style, which utilized the sound of the Broadwood piano very effectively. And this, all these things earned her recognition from Queen Charlotte. And the video will start with images of the original manuscript. And I thought it was interesting to read through the dedication page that she makes to Queen Charlotte in that manuscript. So you'll see those images at the beginning of the video, and I give you time to read through those. And you can read the florid lauds that she makes to Her Majesty. So we'll watch the guest video now.
Lindsay, are you there? Oh, no, she's not. Bruce, could you hold on a moment?
Yes, Darlene. Did you have a question?
I'm so sorry to interrupt it. We had thought that perhaps you were speaking for a bit and we could not hear you, so I stopped it. So please forgive me. Lindsay, I'm sorry. Could you back that up temporarily?
Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you. My mistake.
Okay.
All right. Is this far enough back, or should I? Well, this is the beginning, so that
Oh,
better be far enough back.
just until the performance begins.
Great.
We saw Bruce's lips moving, and we thought, "Oh dear, we can't hear him. He's muted." And several people were commenting.
I was just seeing if I left enough time for people to read it on their own.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, so we are going to the start of the music then. Yes? Great. All right, here we go.
Yes.
And may I just say, I loved seeing Mariska's smile there. That was a perfect ending.
Thank you.
I think Lindsay is going to give you a few audience questions.
Sure, just a couple. We had a question about something known as a square piano, which I've never heard of before. Does anyone in your group play the square piano?
If I had the time, I would have dragged the square piano out of the garage because I actually have one
Wow.
from 1800. It's a beautiful instrument. So it looks like a shoebox, obviously much bigger. But so the strings are stretched transverse across in front of you, and it's a instrument that was designed to save space in a house because it only utilizes maybe half the space of what a grand, and it can sit in a corner or against a wall easily. And they were very popular, and because they were less expensive than grand pianos. And that was it was a square piano that Jane Austen owned as well. And currently in the Jane Austen Museum house, there's a 1813 square piano, not a Broadwood, but a Clementi. But so she had a square piano.
Very cool. All right. I love learning new things. And then we have another question going back to the chalumeau. Can the chalumeau be overblown, or is it strictly in the low register?
Originally, the chalumeau had a limited range. The one that Adam plays can overblow, and so it has an extended range, not as far as a modern clarinet, but yes, it can overblow. And when the chalumeau was evolved into the clarinet, even though it was called a clarinet, when you spoke of the lower register of the clarinet, that was called the chalumeau range, because that was that full resonant sound that's characteristic of the chalumeau.
Very cool. Thank you. All right, that's it for questions for now. But folks, we're still watching the chat boxes, so feel free to continue to type things in. And then hopefully at the end, we'll have some time for some face-to-face Q&A time as well.
Great. So now we'll play a couple pieces utilizing the harpsichord. So we will show that instrument in the PowerPoint. So the harpsichord, of course, was the main keyboard instrument from the 18th century, and they were still around in 1800 and into the 19th century, being perfectly reasonable keyboard instruments for accompanying chamber music. And people had them and those that couldn't afford to buy the newest fangled piano still utilized the harpsichord. So we're going to use a harpsichord constructed by Curtis Barak again. This is a French double manual, copy of a Tascan. Double manual means that there's actually two keyboards there and several sets of strings. And Curtis copied the color and the gold leaf pattern from the original as well. And the stand of the harpsichord is called a cabriolet stand, and he said it was the most difficult piece of woodworking he's ever had to do because every angle is not 90 degrees. Every piece of wood is at some kind of curved angle, and putting that together was a real masterwork of craftsmanship for woodworking. The next slide shows Curtis's painting of the soundboard. So under the strings, the soundboard was often painted on harpsichords. And this is also paintings of beautiful flowers and birds and insects and butterflies, copied from the original Tascan as well. And there's his name right in the middle, Curtis Barak, around the rosette sound hole. And the next, I thought I'd give you a little video tour of the music room that we're playing in. This is Curtis's music room that has all kinds of antiques, porcelain figurines. Here's the 1813 Broadwood. He has some lovely tapestries in the wall, many oil paintings that he's collected that have hurdy-gurdies that he collects in them. There's the harpsichord, a beautiful double music instrument stand from the 19th century. More paintings, original paintings with hurdy-gurdies. And finally, his second Broadwood pianoforte, that's that one from 1829. And he actually has a third one from 1804 that is not restored. So I want to thank Curtis for all of those, using his music room, for his harpsichord, and for his beautiful restored piano. So we'll move on to works by Handel. Of course, London's greatest musical legacy is George Frederick Handel. You hear his grand works performed regularly in the concert halls and music salons around 1800. And his musical legacy was kept alive often by making transcriptions of his popular orchestral works for chamber music to be played in salons, so that all the musicians can enjoy the expression of his beautiful music. Indeed, Jane Austen's handwritten music books has several transcriptions of popular Handel works. We'll play two movements from Handel's Music for the Royal Fireworks, the La Paix, which means peace, and La Réjouissance. And both of these pieces were transcribed for two flutes and continuo bass by a Mr. Walsh in London. Thank you very much. So that was La Paix and La Réjouissance by George Frederick Handel. So the next musical style we'll go into are Scottish songs. So there are many Scottish songs in the Austen music books. They were very popular. We'll play the ever popular Auld Lang Syne, a traditional Scottish tune with the words by Robert Burns, who incidentally celebrated his birthday 5 days ago. I'm not sure which number it is, but it was Robert Burns Day. I'll perform this on the Northumbrian small pipes, Northumbria being on the border between Scotland and England. I'll show those pipes here. So it's got a bag with the traditional Northumbrian tartan. And this is the chanter. And it's quite a complex instrument with all kinds of keys that extend the range up and down. This is kind of an intermediate version of the key work. You can double the number of keys on this bagpipe. And it's got complex drone system, possibility of 4 different drones that you can turn on or off with these little buttons on the end and change the pitch. So it's a very complicated bagpipe. And I think that's all I want to say. Oh, the Northumbrian small pipes were invented around 1700, and in 1800 they were very popular. And as a matter of fact, the first publication of music specifically written for Northumbrian small pipes was published in 1800. And so now we'll listen to Auld Lang Syne.
And a little warning, this one's a tad loud, be prepared.
It's not Scottish Highland pipes loud. The small pipes are called small because they are an indoor pipe, but this recording might be a little louder than the recorder, yes.
Just so folks are prepared. Here we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to play those beautiful bagpipes, the Northumbrian small pipes. I was very privileged to receive those. They actually came from the reigning piper to the Duke of Northumberland, Mr. Richard Butler. So that position as the piper to the Duke has been an ongoing tradition since the 1700s. It's one of the few well-paid musician gigs in the world. So next we'll play a tambourin. The tambourin is a kind of tuned string drum from France, and it often features a very lively rhythm. There was a handwritten tambourin in one of Austen music books. So now we'll listen to a tambourin. Thank you very much. Okay, so for our final work on the program, we will play the movements of a quadrille, which was a very popular dance set form. And the quadrille is composed of 5 separate dances. Each dance has a major and minor music sections to them. We chose a well-known quadrille set by Thomas Wilson, published in 1817, because they are musically interesting and somewhat virtuosic. And we'll play all 5 of these in one back-to-back.
Yay, that was wonderful. All right, while we wait for Bruce to reestablish his internet connection, I would love to get folks started with thinking about questions that they would like to ask him. So if you have questions, go ahead and type those in the chat boxes. We'll be paying attention. There was also some discussion about where to get the music for these, and some very helpful comments about places that you could potentially go to find music. Kara, I think you mentioned regencydances.org as a good source. So thank you for that. And yeah, it's been so fascinating to watch so many questions get asked in the chat, and then so many knowledgeable folks being able to answer those questions before I even had a chance to relay them. So I'm really impressed by you all and all your various knowledge. And I think I just saw Bruce. Bruce, I believe you're back. Let me see. Are you able to unmute now?
Yes, I'm back. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So good to have you back. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to put that program together.
What a pleasure to watch.
Were there any other questions that I missed?
I think that we're going to start getting questions rolling in soon.
Okay.
In the meantime, I have a question. How did you get into early music?
Oh gosh. So when I was my first year in college, I was studying biology, and I had played trumpet as a child, and so I wanted to take a music class. And so I took exploring music, where you had to learn to play 5 different instruments like piano, guitar, and recorder, and play one piece of music on each one of those instruments. So the recorder I really liked, and took it to the Renaissance Fair and got into dressing up in period costumes. And that led from the Renaissance in both directions, back and forwards, over the last 30 years or so, to other periods, and eventually to this Regency, which is kind of my newest foray, although I've been doing it for several years, but the newest period, finding these wonderful pieces of music and instruments to play them on.
Wonderful. And how did the Picadillys get together?
The Picadillys were formed originally for the Labyrinth of Jareth masquerade ball that happens every year here in Los Angeles. And it's a really grand, huge event with thousands of costumed participants. And we were playing dance music for Darlene's Historical Tea and Dance Society ballroom grand ball dances that she would teach, and people could come and participate in. So we were the dance band for several years, and then we were also playing this music as a more of a concert performance in or background music and concert performance for their grand chill out lobby at the Labyrinth. And we've played for a couple of the Jane Austen tea dances for tea time music, and played some of these pieces for the entertainment of dancers during their tea time.
Very cool. And what a pleasure that you've been here to play for us today. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, we're giving a few more moments for questions to come in. Here we go, a couple keyboard questions. One was about the harpsichord. With 2 keyboards, is one for treble and one for bass, or how does that work?
There's, so on the harpsichord, there are actually 3 sets of strings, 2 that are roughly equal and 1 that's an octave higher. And you can assign those sets of strings to the 2 keyboards independently, or to couple them all together. So once you've set up that coupling, you can use the 2 different keyboards for 2 different sounds. And so you can add some variety to the sound, since the harpsichord can't play, in principle, you can't play louder and softer like a piano can, because you can't strike the key on a harpsichord and make it louder. It only makes one plucking sound. But you can use these 2 keyboards to generate a greater volume sound by activating more strings for each time you pluck the string.
Very cool. Thank you. And then this music room, is it here in LA somewhere?
Yes, it is somewhere in LA.
Very cool. Wow.
Curtis has a workshop and studio in downtown Los Angeles, and he set up these instruments in the basement of his workshop, and surrounded it with all these beautiful paintings and tapestries and things like that.
Yeah, it looks like an incredible space.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to be there, and he's such a interesting person to know, and as a and be a friend, because he's got all these great stories about musical instruments and their restoration. And it's just fascinating to me, all the craftsmanship and the detailed technical work that goes into restoring these antique musical instruments.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Not both the antique ones and the newly constructed recreations. It's amazing.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
hoping that we can do a part 2 of this concert. We have a bunch of repertoire that we didn't get to for this concert. A couple of them that we really wanted to, but just didn't have the time to put it together was in Jane Austen's music book. There's a transcription of Handel's Hallelujah Chorus for 4-hand piano. So 2 performers on the same piano. So we want to do that in the future. Also, I've got another instrument from 1800, this beautiful recorder-like instrument called the flageolet. And this is an original instrument from around 1800, also in boxwood and ivory, like the Chalumeau was. And we also wanted to do in the future program the very popular dance tune called Drops of Brandy. I understand it's one of the most called for dance tunes of this era. And it happens to be a staple of the Northumbrian small pipe repertoire as well. So we wanted to arrange something of that tune as well.
That's great.
And I guess I can announce a upcoming concert soon of mine. On February 14th, Curtis Barak and I are performing music for the Musette de Cour, which is the French Baroque bagpipe, and the Vielle Roux, which is the French Baroque hurdy-gurdy. And we're doing this for the San Diego Early Music Society. And it's a music that evokes pastoral sensibilities from the French Baroque. And that's going to be on February 14th. If anybody's interested, you could email me. I think my email address is in the postings there, and I will let you know what the link is for that online concert.
Great. While we get that email address, I have a question from Cheryl. And Cheryl, if you'd like to go ahead and ask it yourself, feel free. Hopefully you should be able to unmute. Now you should be able to. Go ahead.
Okay. I had asked the question and I got lots of answers on chat about whether the square piano was vertically strung or horizontally strung. And the answer seemed to be both. But I was wondering, when you have shorter strings and it's a square piano, how do they do the tension? Is there a metal soundboard or something?
No, the early square pianos were also all wood. Being a smaller box, you can have more reinforcement for the relative size, unlike that 8-foot Broadwood Grand, you know, an 8-foot length of wood. It's difficult to have enough bracing to stabilize it. But the square pianos were quite stable. And as you said, the strings are horizontally in front of you, laid out from left to right, that is, on the square piano.
Oh.
And the way that, since it's a shorter instrument, the way that they create the same pitch of strings is to either use a lower tension. So strings under a lower tension will have a lower pitch, or to use strings that are more massive. So more massive string vibrates at a lower frequency. But in general, it's a lower tension that achieves an instrument that still has the range and the pitch of a normal piano.
I have more questions, but I don't want to take up any more time. Can you give me some place to look into this?
Sure. Send me an email and ask your questions. And I think, and I'm happy to direct you to what I know, and maybe to what Curtis can also inform about any of your questions as well, since he's a real expert.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, keeping an eye out for any last questions.
Well, in the meantime, let me make a few announcements. That was a wonderful concert, and we will absolutely allow you to come back and do another one. So we will keep everyone informed. We certainly want to thank Bruce Teether, Mariska Hopcroft, and Adam Gilberti, who we will again thank at the end of this. But let me tell you about upcoming events. Every Tuesday night, we have our 5 things inside the dancing mind of. So we're going to post next week's. Please check it out. If you're an English country dance person, then you will probably really enjoy that show. And then I want to announce breaking news, the return of our 3rd Saturday web chat on February 20th, 5 things inside the dancing mind of Nicholas Broadbridge from Scotland. We are thrilled to have Nicholas with us next month. He's been English country dancing since 1950s. He's a student of Pat Shaw, a composer, a researcher of 17th, 18th, and 19th century dance, book publisher of The Assembly Players and the Purcell's Dancing Master, and editor of many others. He's an accordion player for the wonderful Assembly Players. He's taught and performed all across the UK, the Netherlands, United States. They just released their 21st CD this past December, the Folly Broom collection, and registration will be opening soon for that. So do stay tuned. Join our mailing list if you have not already, and you'll get all this information and you'll know when we are doing the Picadillys' next concert. Lindsay, did we get any final questions? I think we got maybe 1 or 2.
1 or 2. Let's see. For the quadrille that we just watched, someone would like to have you restate the name and author of the book with music and dance notation that we saw.
That was the book is called The Quadrille Instructor, published in 1817, and Thomas Wilson is the author, arranger, composer. And I found that on IMSLP, which is a website that has tens of thousands of works of music, including images of original manuscripts, including that one. So if you just go to imslp.com and type in Thomas Wilson Quadrille, you can find that original manuscript.
Wonderful. I'm adding that to the chat as well. That's imslp.com, correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, then that link should be safe to click. Wonderful. Bruce, do you have any music or anything on your website that folks can purchase?
No.
Not at this time. Thank you.
Not at this time.
Maybe in the future, though.
Yes. Yeah, now that we've gotten through this formal recording process and understand all the ups and downs of that we can perhaps do a more professional recording and offer that for sale.
That would be wonderful.
That would be wonderful.
All of these recordings from today will be on the Picadillys website, the Facebook page under videos. So that under Facebook, it's the Picadillys, and click on videos. They're not up yet, but they will be soon.
And this concert will remain on our Historical Tea and Dance Society Facebook page, and we're going to put it up on YouTube. So we will be able to get all of that as well. We will certainly direct people to Bruce's website and email address. If you didn't catch it in the chat, save your chat. There was a lot of great commentary going on in there, and we will also certainly send the chat to our musicians, who will love to see all the compliments and the good wishes. What an amazing program. Oh my goodness gracious. And we had more people than ever today. We loved all the educational aspects that you did. It was truly so wonderful. We feel very blessed that you're one of our own here in Southern California. I really want to give a great thank you to the Picadillys, Bruce Teether, Mariska Hopcroft, and Adam Gilberti. Thank you so very much for performing for us today. This was so exciting, and it was I think it was the best making the best use of Zoom, where we could get such personal knowledge and up close information and see those instruments. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Darlene. It was a real pleasure to put this together.
And thank you to everyone who came from all over the world. It was so exciting, and we just love featuring content like this. So thank you very much, everyone. I think I'd like to give a final thank you to Lindsay Verbal and Reed Wilson and Dan Vilter, who is my team, and Renee Turner, who is also part of the team. We were all scanning and catching those questions. I think we did catch all of them. We just want to, again, say how grateful we are for you putting the work into this. And folks, don't forget, our musicians need to survive during this time and always. So if you have a little to spare, the donation link has been posted. It's pinned on Facebook. And we just love showing a little appreciation to our musicians. So thank you if you can do that. If not, don't worry about it. We're thrilled that you were here today with us. So thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I think at this point, we are going to say we will see you next time, hopefully soon, and we will send you information about the concert part 2. Thank you all. It far exceeded all my expectations, Bruce. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Should we let people unmute and say thank you?
Of course, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you so much. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely event. Thank you.
Hope to join more. Thank you.
Wunderbar.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
We should have taken photos.
Oh, well, I didn't think about it.
Next time.
Yeah,
Yes.
late.
Next time. That's a little bit different event. Bye, all.
Bye.
See you soon.